Do you know what the best part of week 3 is? What do you think it is? For some, it's the utter realization that your team is not going anywhere. While for others, they are overdosing on their first sheds of opium in years. And for a select few, they are taking their yearly overdose of opium. I'm looking at you, Ohio State. Might as well call you the Dallas Cowboys of football. And you can see every bit of it here in week 3 of my real-life college football imperialism. If you haven't been here, then welcome. Let me show you around. Do you see Big Green Idaho? Well, it's like that because Oregon just beat Boise State. And now, do you see the Wisconsin logo? Well, Wisconsin? That's not going to be there much longer. If you'd like to see more rules and regulations, then watch the week 1 version of this video. Otherwise, let's pull up the new map and talk about some football. The ebbs and flows of college football can all be seen in this picture. So let's break it down. Starting with our first change on Thursday Night Football. Don't worry, I'm talking about the Thursday Night Football where Tua doesn't get his 17th concussion. Instead, it was the fan base of Arizona State that got it, because suddenly being this good must have blindsided them. Now, you may ask, well, didn't they beat a Sunbelt team by 3? Why, yes they did. They just went to the house of what is probably the best Sunbelt team and beat them on their own turf. And now, you're already halfway to qualifying for a bowl game. Now, don't screw this up, because honestly, I think that you can be a dark horse for the playoffs right now. But I need more. So let's see their game next week before we know for sure. Now, let's speed time forward for a day and look at another giant map change with Kansas State destroying Arizona in a Big 12 heavyweight matchup. Imagine saying that a couple of years ago, these two teams were even in a heavyweight matchup. Maybe Kansas State, it's more Arizona. But Kansas State is among the favorites to win the Big 12, maybe even the favorites for a significant portion of the population. And in 2 weeks, we may get to see a potential conference championship when they face Oklahoma State. But as of right now, they are my pick for the Big 12 champion. So let's drift over to what may be a sneaky good game in UCF versus TCU. In this game, TCU was up as much as 28-7, and that didn't stop UCF, no. As UCF would claw back into this game one way or another, and eventually win this game. In case you were wondering, TCU had a 99.5% chance to win this game at one point, at least according to ESPN. I'll just leave it at that. Meanwhile, right next door, Texas Tech made a comeback by beating North Texas by quite a bit, as did NC State and Louisiana Tech. And lastly, my dear Michigan beat Arkansas State to get on this map. Michigan's QB technically had a perfect game, not a single incompletion, but what I think is going to be the biggest snag for territory is when LSU beat South Carolina for all of their stuff. After a back and forth game, at least it was back and forth in the second half, there is now 4 purple corners of the Southeast. Meanwhile, Appalachian State and Georgia State re-obtained their land. And let's congratulate Vanderbilt for going 2 weeks longer than expected, being undefeated. Maryland is also now back after beating Virginia. Of course, they now find themselves on the wrong side of the Potomac. They do have an opportunity to get back, as long as Michigan State beats Ohio State, loses to Oregon, and Maryland beats Oregon. Sorry I said that wrong the first time. Still adjusting to saying that right. Anyway, so good luck, Maryland. I really hope you get it. Another good game transpired when Missouri beats Boston College. And let's just say, who would have thought that this would have been a ranked matchup 2 years ago? Not me, that's for sure. But this was a close game after Missouri came back from an early Boston College lead. In other news, Notre Dame re-established themselves in Indiana. Miami overtook Ball State. FAU took FIU's territory in central Michigan. And Wisconsin turned a different shade of red after losing to Alabama in a very hyped game. Of course, Alabama only won by 32. But hey, Wisconsin did draw first blood with a field goal in the first quarter. And now, is that Alabama Western Michigan too? Wisconsin, what have you done? Now Alabama has territory in the state that I'm in. Okay, I just need a change of scenery. But I'll need to travel all the way to Washington to find it. As now, Washington State just united their entire state, which for some reason is very satisfying. I just love seeing entire states unite like that. Thank you, Washington State. And as a reward, I think I'll consider you to be another dark horse for a playoff spot. I do admit, it would have been nice to see you in a fully stacked Pac-12 this year. And hey, you now have the most land out of any other team here, mainly because of Alaska, but hey, you still need to proudly hold that designation. Another fully united state is Oregon, where Oregon State was wrecked by Oregon after their first solid showing all year. So good job, Oregon. And for my final matchup, I will talk about Indiana and UCLA, where Indiana is now getting a lot of hype after their victory. Do I buy it? No. Simply put, I don't think UCLA was going to be that good of a team, so I'll need to see Indiana be a much better team before we can truly know where they're at. I'm sure they'll get a test at Charlotte. Okay, so they'll really be tested at Maryland in 2 weeks. Then we'll see. So you should have some time to enjoy those Hawaiian Islands for a little bit. That's all of the matchups this week that involve changes in territory. But what about any major games that didn't involve territory? I mean, that Kentucky-Georgia game was really close, wasn't it? Nah. So, please subscribe, and goodbye.